can you go 150 into a corner and through a corner on a track, lap after lap after lap? Other people trying to do the same thing you're doing at the same place there. Not this whole, trying to do a quick little pull against your friend on the highway. And they're like, yeah, I drove, I hit 150, 160 on the highway. Like, that doesn't make you a good driver. That just shows that you can hit the gas pedal.
Welcome to Clock In, the show where we interview different career fields and different professionals to give you a real-world perspective on what they do. I'm your host, Marcus, and today I have the absolute honor of talking with Jesse Iwuji, a professional NASCAR driver and owner, along with the great Emmitt Smith, of Jesse Iwuji Motorsports. Thank you so much for taking the time to educate future drivers and inspire those who feel like what they face may be impossible.
Yeah, most definitely. And, thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Hey, just for a quick background, Jesse, what inspired you to drive? You started off playing football at the Naval Academy and became a naval officer and then transitioned. How did you turn pro from that point?
Yeah, my inspiration to, go into the whole racing world, honestly, probably started when I was a little kid. Growing up, as a kid, I used to watch the cartoon Speed Racer. I used to watch the very, very old show. It was by the time I was watching, it was a rerun at that point. It was Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff. So I used to watch that show. So that was kind of my first, entry into the whole car world. I really liked anything that had to do with cars I would see on TV, or even in any movies or anything like that. And then growing up from there, starting to gravitate towards obviously new video games were coming out, right? So you have Gran Turismo 2 and you had Need for Speed, whatever else video games, Forza, whatever, all these video games that were coming out. All this stuff is even pushing me closer and closer to this whole car world. And then eventually the Fast and the Furious series, and watching Fast and Furious, all of them, because I've literally watched every single one of them, and some of them a lot more than the others. All of that really kind of built that passion for cars and eventually racing. So going to the Naval Academy, football, outside of car stuff, football was my thing, right? I knew realistically at that time football was the only thing that I could probably go after at that point, because racing's very expensive, it's costly. You can't just go to Walmart and buy yourself a race car and go practice outside in front of your house. It just doesn't work like that. So football was my thing, and I was trying to build up my athletic skills so I could go play college football somewhere. The Naval Academy to me was the best opportunity to go to a really good school for a really great education, be able to play football for a team that was winning and doing well, and then also being able to play football at the highest level of college football. So I took that opportunity, went to the Naval Academy, played there 4 years, started some games, played in a lot of games, and got to be on teams where we beat Notre Dame twice. We beat Army and Air Force all 4 years. Sorry that we beat Air Force, but we beat Air Force all 4 years. Doing all that, it was fun. And even to this day, I still love football. But outside of it, I just had this growing urge towards the car world. And then once I graduated from the Naval Academy, I didn't have football anymore. So I had to figure out what was that next fun thing I was going to be a part of. And that was cars. And I just thought I would just be a car enthusiast. I'd have my, little sports car, muscle car, whatever. I'd go have fun with that. But, I never realized that I would actually try to take it to another level and take it to the next level, which was get into professional racing. I never thought that would be an option or even a thing. But 2015, I decided that it was going to be a thing, and then that's where the journey started.
Yeah, I love how determined you are. You set your mind to it and you just went after it. And so going into your pro career here, for those who only see race day, like most of us, right? How would you describe what a NASCAR driver does, as a profession outside of just time spent on the track?
So as a driver, everybody has their different things they do. I came into the whole NASCAR world very different than other drivers. Even right now, I race part-time, right? I don't race every single race. So I race when I have the right sponsorship in place to be able to race, because racing is expensive. It's not like football. It's not like basketball. In the NFL, right, you get hired onto a team by, you get drafted. If you're coming out of college, you get drafted. And then once you're in the league, free agency, trades, all that stuff. And that's how you keep playing, right? But there's a team owner who makes a lot of money from the football team, right? Merch sales, TV deals, the stadium stuff, all that. They make all this money from it. And then they use that money to pay these players. In racing, the teams, they don't own the tracks. They don't own any big assets that are just cash cows for them so that they can just go hire whatever driver they want. These teams have to go find the money themselves through sponsorships and business to business deals. That's why typically the biggest teams you'll see out there, the ones that are usually doing the best, those ones, the owners don't just own that race team. They own other businesses outside. Like Rick Hendrick, he owns like, I think 500 car dealerships around the country. And, you know, probably a bunch of body shops and a whole bunch of other stuff too. So he has tons of money coming from all that. So like racing, he is getting sponsorships from a lot of different entities, but you look at some of those deals and it's like, let's say for example, you know, when Nationwide was a big sponsor for his team, Nationwide, he was probably at that time, what they were doing was like, hey, Nationwide, we have all these dealerships. We sell X amount of cars a year. We're going to put your name in front of every single person who comes and buys a car at these dealerships every single time. You're the first insurance we'll put in front of everybody. And then Nationwide was like, oh, that's awesome. But then he was like, but you got to sponsor my NASCAR program. And then they're like, okay, cool. Yeah, guaranteed business. Sure. So, you know, you can make these business deals, but somebody like me, I didn't come from all that money. I didn't come from all that stuff. So I had to figure out a different way. So my route into NASCAR from the Navy was very, very much different. So my normal day in a life stuff isn't the same. For me, I'm working on my businesses that I currently have so I can make the money, so I can like survive, right? So that I can go race, so I can do this, pay the bills, do this and that. Like that's what I have to do. And I'm having to get really creative, right? That's my life, right? Is just constantly doing business stuff. You know, in the evenings, you know, I like to get on my simulator and train on there, right? I got to still keep my driving skills sharp. And then outside of that too, as well, I'm always looking for sponsorships. So I'm on the sponsorship hunt, reaching out to different companies to see if they can, you know, would like to partner with our team. So it's all these things I'm always after, and I'm always grinding to try to make happen. But yeah, it's a grind, right? Other drivers, some of them, they spend their whole day sponsorship hunting. Some of them don't have to do any of that because their parents have a lot of money and their parents just pay all their racing bills. So all they got to do is just go train, right? They go get on their simulator, go do some other training in other vehicles, whatever they like. They just spend their time doing that. Everyone has a different life that they do. You know, it's just different from every other sport because everyone's coming from somewhere else to get in, and their angle of getting in sometimes is easier than others and sometimes a lot harder than others. So it all depends. But my journey is very, very unique in a lot of ways to me. I'm doing Navy stuff too. I'm still in the Navy. No other driver can say that they are serving in the Navy and also racing as well. They can't.
That's so interesting. I love how you broke that down. I mean, like you took the contract of the NFL. It's not like you guys are on contracts like you would be the NFL, NBA, where you're locked in. You guys are constantly fighting for those sponsorships, which makes sense. You see that on TV with the sponsorships on the car, the equipment, so on and so forth. So
now with the bigger teams who do have a lot more funding going on, all stuff, the drivers that are on those bigger teams, they're usually in a position where they have 1, 2, or 3 whatever year deals or something like that, where they're kind of like in a position where it's similar to like your normal stick and ball sports like football and basketball, baseball and stuff like that. But that's only for the big teams. Outside of that, once you go to like the mid tier and smaller teams, yeah, everyone's constantly fighting to just find that extra dollar to be able to race. It's not easy. You'll hear it always in motorsport. Motorsport is one, they always call it a rich man sport, because it really is. But not that anyone else can't get into it. It's just understand that it is a rich person sport. So you got to find a way to put yourself in a position to be that rich person in a way, even though you're not really rich, you're always losing money. But, it's hard. It's not easy.
So let me ask you, kind of transition into like the technical skills of it. You know, what skills separate someone who says, hey, you know what, I like to drive, I drive fast, versus someone who drives professionally?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of skills. It's funny. I'll see people online on the internet and they'll post some video of them doing, I don't know, 100 plus, 120, 130, 150, whatever mile per hour on the highway, doing some run, street racing, this and that. And they'll call themselves a good driver. And I chuckle because I'm like, I have no clue what it takes to truly be a good driver. Like, yeah, you're cool, whatever. You're driving 150 miles per hour in a straight line, you know, on the highway. Okay, great. Awesome. Like literally anyone can do that. But like where real skill comes in, can you go 150 into a corner and through a corner on a track, lap after lap after lap, with other corners coming, and understanding how you're going to attack every single corner, lap after lap after lap, with other people trying to do the same thing you're doing at the same place. So now you got to manage your traffic lap after lap after lap. Can you do that for 2 to 3 hours straight in a car that has no AC, that is 120 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit inside? Like, can you do that? Like, that's a driver right there, not this whole, trying to do a quick little pull against your friend on the highway. And they're like, yeah, I drove, I hit 150, 160 on the highway or whatever. Like, that doesn't make you a good driver. That just shows that you can hit the gas pedal and that's it. I mean, sometimes some of these cars are really high horsepower, so maybe there's a little bit of control that's needed. But for the most part, most of these guys they're not drivers. They're not drivers.
I'm those guys, shamefully. But no, that's incredible. That puts everything in perspective right there. Yeah, I don't, and that kind of leads me into my next question. What is that pressure like, having in the back of your mind, at any point, the race can be going great, but any mistake at that extreme speed, I mean, could be damaging to a lot of things. What's that pressure like?
It's a lot of pressure for sure. Yeah. Any mistake by you or any mistake by the people next to you, right? Sometimes you could be doing everything right, but someone else next to you makes a mistake, and next thing you know, they're into you and then you're into the wall, or you're spinning or something, or that you have to check up and you get into the back of them and you damage your radiator or some cooler or something like that, and you're out of the race. Anything can happen, like especially when, you're racing at a super speedway, right? When we race at Talladega and Daytona and stuff, we're very, very close. We're like, we're all going 190 plus miles per hour. But any little thing happens, like somebody wiggles a little bit, then all of a sudden this person has to let up a little bit. Well, sometimes you just don't have enough time to react, and boom, you're into the back of them. And it might not seem like a lot, but it's enough to damage something that you can't fix now, and now you're out of the race. So you're constantly watching for this stuff. And on the track too, in NASCAR at least, we don't have brake lights, right? So when someone checks up and they brake or do this and that, like, you're relying on your depth perception to see that we're all going at this speed and now there's a delta, something changed. Like, you now got closer to me. That's how I know that something happened and I'm having to react immediately. So like, our reaction is very, very up, but all of our focus is so honed in that we can react to things that happen very, very split second and be able to get away from it. And we don't always get away from it. Sometimes you just can't avoid it. The vehicle can only do so much, right? Even though you see what's going on and you know where you need to go, the vehicle just maybe can't get there. Yeah. And then, so sometimes we react quicker than the vehicle can actually react. And it just happens.
But how much would you say is more so the vehicle and the equipment versus the actual driver itself?
Yeah, it's all of it, right? The driver does have to be good, right? The driver has to be honed in and focused, but the vehicle is a massive limiting factor too. You could be the best driver in the world, but if I'm the best driver in the world, and let's say you're like the next best driver in the world, right? But your vehicle can go 100 miles per hour and mine can only go 95. Even if I'm the best driver in the world, maybe I can make mine go 95 miles per hour every single lap. But if let's say you're not the best driver, but your vehicle can go faster, you only got to give X amount of percentage for your vehicle to maybe go 96 miles per hour. And now you're beating me. And maybe you're not beating me because you were like the better driver. You're beating me because your car is just in a better position. They can just do more. It has better engineering into it, better R&D, all that stuff. And it's faster. So, car is everything. You can only make your car go as fast as it is capable of going, because if you try, then that's when you start wrecking. You're spinning, something happens, things break. Car is a lot of it, but then driver too. At some point, the driver has to be able to drive it to that level, has to be able to have the level of focus, confidence, courage, right? Sometimes there's some corners you go into and it's just a courage thing, It's not even really much of a skill thing. It's like, okay, I'm just confident that this is going to stick, and I'm confident that if it doesn't stick, I can get myself out of it. And that's tough, not like even the most seasoned drivers. You take a really seasoned driver, let's say you take them out of the seat for like half a year, you put them in, like it takes them a little bit to get back up to speed, because they're like, it's kind of like, okay, all right,
Yeah, gotta build it back.
And like even like you, the same thing. Like you look at the NFL, right? You have a quarterback that maybe has been out for a little bit. They don't, and maybe they're a really good quarterback, but when they come back, they're not immediately just firing off and just boom, just killing everybody. It takes a little bit. That maybe they got a few. They throw a few balls that are kind of like a little bit missed targets. Maybe they might throw a pick. It takes a little bit to get back into the confidence game where you're like, okay, I'm honed in, I'm confident, and I'm one with the game. It takes a little bit.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I love again how you're comparing it to the NFL. It breaks things down to where you can see where that confidence builds from.
Yeah.
Um, Let me ask you, and you're the perfect person to answer this question. Switching to the financial aspect just a little bit. Drivers are brands, and obviously you kind of went in and talked about how big sponsorships are. You mentioned in the beginning, but could you expand on?
Yeah, branding is everything for drivers. You are your own marketing machine. When companies are spending money to sponsor, they're looking for some type of result to come out of it that helps benefit whatever their initiatives are. So you as a driver going into it, you have to understand that you are a piece of that puzzle. You're not only there to just drive, and that's where some drivers get into trouble. They get into racing and they only want to focus on driving, and that's it. And that's great. Yes, you need to advance your skills, be the best possible driver that you can be, right? You want to be able to do the best and finish the best that you can. Yes. But there is that business aspect of it. And we're one of the only sports out there, like golf, I guess, is turning into this too in some ways, and even some other ones, right? They need sponsors. I've talked to a couple of golfers, and they're like, dude, I like because they can't go and work a normal job, so they need someone to help pay them so that they can do what they do, and you can't rely on your winnings because what if you go out there and you just don't have a good day at a tournament? Well, you're not winning much, so with racing, the driver, you are part of the marketing assets that the sponsors are buying into. So you got to be able to have a good social media presence. You got to be able to have eyeballs who look at you that you can push out these marketing messages to. You got to be someone who can speak in a professional manner where, when you get on a camera and you're getting interviewed and this and that you can be able to, say the different lines to smoothly kind of stick your sponsors in and, kind of give them the shout outs and the plugs that they deserve. You got to be able to do that. Not everybody can. Some people, they clam up, they freeze up, or they're just kind of dumb. They just they're not good at it, so you have to be good at it. But once again, the driving part that's very important too. You got to be able to be someone who continues to hone their skills and get better and better and better and try to be the best you can. Not everyone is going to be the number one driver. Only one, it's kind of, if you think about racing, right? Like in the NASCAR Xfinity series, which is now the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts series, they're changing it now. There's 38 drivers out there driving, against each other in a race. Only one can win. Think of every other sport in the world. There's only two entities on the field of play that are competing, and one of those two are going to win. For us, it's 38 entities on the field, and only one's going to win. It like most of the time, if you lose a game, like the people who lost the Super Bowl, the Patriots, they lost. It sucks. You're just like, oh my God, I finished second. Basically, you lost. Well, in our world, finishing second is a great day.
Yeah.
Third's still a great day. Fifth is a great day. 10th is a great day. Top 15 in general is a pretty good day. Now if you're finishing kind of in that back third, then you're not really a great day. But if you can finish in the front half of the field, for the most part, it's a solid day. So, and that's how we judge it. So I went out and I finished 11th at Daytona a few years ago, and I was ecstatic, right? Because for me, that was my win right there. I'm a small team. I just finished 11th, 38 people. I made it to the end, and that was huge. But if I would have finished fifth, I would have been even more happy, right?
Yeah.
But if I would have finished 33rd, I'd have been like, oh dang.
Is it realistic for someone without connections to break into the world today, would you say?
I think it's anybody can break in as long as you have the right mindset and you're willing to do what's necessary to go get the resources you need. At the end of the day, you just got to understand, what are all the resources I need to get in? I need funding. I got to find where the money's at. I got to be able to build my personal brand and grow my social media. That's your brand right there. Grow that. And then you got to be somebody who can also figure out ways to connect the dots with the businesses that you're looking to sponsor you and what you're doing. And if you can be a great connector, your brand is building and you know how to build it, or you're learning how to build it and you're trying to build it. And then you just figure out how to be a professional fundraiser. if you do all that, and then also obviously, like I said, you got to keep working on the driving skills, drive every single day, whatever you can, whether it's simulator or something else. But you put all that together, that's how you can break in. So you don't have to have all the connections in the world. I didn't. Like, I came into NASCAR, I knew nobody, but I did know that I know how to walk up to someone, shake their hand, and say, "Hey, I'm here, and this is what I'm trying to do." And once I basically put all that together, like, that's what allowed me to kind of work my way in and keep advancing my way up, and just continuously shake hands and meet people and connect the dots and network and fundraise and fundraise and fundraise and get creative about fundraising, right? Sometimes you talk to potential sponsors and you're saying, "Hey, just keeping it simple, like, oh, we're doing this and I'd like you to sponsor, our race team for this race," right? And they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't want to do the sponsorship thing because of whatever reason." So I'm like, dang, okay, well, how about this? You have a upcoming sales conference that's really, really big, and you typically have keynote speakers who come and speak. I have a pretty crazy story with me going from Navy to NASCAR. Why don't I come speak at your event? And like, "Oh yeah, and typically we pay those speakers. What's your rate?" You give them a rate. "Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense." Boom. All of a sudden now you got that money, the same money that you were just asking for to go do this. Maybe not the exact same, but you got money that adds to your little, water bucket that you need of money to go racing. Some want this, some don't. Some of them like, "Hey, I just need a business to business, relationship going. I noticed that McDonald's is at all of those races because they're sponsoring whoever. I need to get in front of whoever the blah 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 exec is over there that comes to all the races. So I'll sponsor your car just to have access to get to that person," right?
Interesting. It's almost like you need a marketing degree and a sales certification to become a NASCAR driver as well, because you're selling yourself constantly.
I feel like your brain needs to be outside of that. You need to think outside that scope and get way more creative. And that's how you're going to find the money. Because if everyone is doing the same exact thing, they're all going to be right here. But if I just do something different, like I said, like, hey, they were all trying to get money to go racing, right? I'm trying to get money too. But all I did was just be like, "I'm going to go speak at your event," versus asking you to sponsor me. So now I get money. They didn't get money. You see how I just won?
Yeah.
So like, it's just finding the outside creative ways. But before you can even do that, you got to have a Batman belt, and your tool belt, your bat belt or whatever it is, has to have a ton of different tools that makes you capable of doing what I just said, right? Not everybody can speak, right? They've been practicing racing and driving so much they didn't do any type of development of their speaking skills, so they can't get on stage and talk for an hour and keep the crowd going. They can't do that. It takes a special level of, I don't even know how I did, because I used to be so scared of public speaking, and now I'm speaking in front of crowds of 200, 300, 500, or more.
That's so interesting. Let me ask you, for someone who has dreams of sitting in that seat one day, what should they be working on now, and what would you want them to remember?
For those working on it now, one, make sure you have a racing simulator at home, right? So that you can train every single day. It's really expensive to go get in real vehicles and train like that all the time. Unless you have one already or your parents are super rich, get a simulator so you can train your skills and you can try different things. And when it doesn't work, you can hit the reset button. You don't got to go fix a race car because you wrecked. But get a racing simulator. Number two, try to get out there in some type of racing vehicle. Like, if I'm trying to make it all the way to whatever NASCAR level, doesn't necessarily mean I need to be driving NASCAR race cars every single day, but even if it's a go-kart, even if it's jumping into a dirt racing car or whatever, something, I'll just jump into something and try to drive as many weekends as you can throughout the year.
Thanks for clocking in with us. Enjoyed the content? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you have a career in mind you would like us to spotlight, send us a message on Instagram. We're always listening. Until next time, it's time to clock out.